Okay. So, what is your name?
James Graf.
And would you mind telling everyone how you are related to me?
You are my deceased wife's sister's daughter's daughter.
You're my great uncle.
Okay, whatever fits.
Did you enlist or were you drafted into the service?
I enlisted. I was about to be drafted, so I enlisted.
And why did you choose to join the military for the Vietnam War?
At the time, there was working in this area was very hard. Work was very minimal. So, going into the service, going to be drafted, enlisting gave me a choice of an education, and basically learning a trade, which I did by choosing aircraft maintenance, and ended up going through 3 different schools for aircraft, fixed wing and rotary wing mechanics.
And how old were you when you joined the service?
I was just turned 20.
And how did you feel about entering the military during wartime? Were you excited, afraid, proud?
In those days, the history of the men in this country, it was expected of you because that's what our fathers and our grandfathers and uncles and all did before us. It was an honorable thing to do.
And why did you pick the service branch that you joined as opposed to other ones?
There's really no rhyme or reason for that other than I wanted to go to aviation school.
Do you remember your boot camp or training experiences? And where did you receive your basic training?
That's something you never forget. That's indelibly imprinted in your mind. I entered the service through Coral Gables, Florida, and then took my basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia. And from there, after basic training, you go to what they call advanced training, which was in Fort Rucker, Alabama. And I spent probably 6-7 more months in Fort Rucker, Alabama.
And what did you learn to do during your training?
Well, you learn all the basics of military life. You learn to march, shoot. You're in the best shape for your life. And then once you finish that, you go through an advanced infantry courses. And then you get into school for your specialty, which in my case was I went through a rotary wing school, I went through a fixed wings school, and then I went through a different school to learn airframe and power plant maintenance.
And what did your first days in the service feel like?
It was like, oh hell, what did I do?
But did it get better after that?
Not for at least a year. So it was very, very... Once you become accustomed to the discipline and understand your training and get through all the basic training schedules, then it does become very much like a job.
And where exactly did you serve in the war?
From Fort Rucker, Alabama. When I left there, I went through Travis Air Force Base in California, and then was deployed to Vietnam. That was in September of 1968.
And how did you travel to the war zone?
By plane. We went. They basically the Army had chartered airplanes through commercial airlines, and they were full with just all soldiers being deployed. So.
And And when you arrived at Vietnam, what was your job and assignment?
Well, when you first get there, you have to go through what they call a replacement company, which is outside of Saigon. And from there, and it's full of all fresh troops coming into the country. And then you were basically through, in military ways, you were divided up and sent to companies that need replacements based on what they call your MOS, which was, your MOS is the designation for the schooling of the job you have, that you were trained for, and then they'll assign you to a company there, and then they arrange transport from Saigon to wherever that company is based. In my case, it was I was part of the 1st Infantry Division at the first, and it was in base camp was in a place called Phu Loy, which is about 30 miles northeast of Saigon. So,
And when you got there, what did you actually start doing?
I actually started in a motor pool. I was in a motor pool for a month, and then from there I went into the hangar and maintenance part of the maintenance platoon for probably another month, 2 months. I don't remember that time, and then from there I went into a flight platoon that began to fly.
And how did your job fit into the war as a whole?
Well, helicopters in Vietnam were the new cavalry. They had no more horses, anything else. Everything was done via helicopter. So my base camp alone, there was probably 30,000 people, troops on it, and there were nine different helicopter companies there. Had performed different jobs for different functions, and that's where everything was done via helicopter.
Yeah.
So everything that moved was done via helicopter.
Yeah.
You had the infantry, which was always there, but they were moved by helicopter.
Right.
They were moved for insertions every day. We usually insertions and extractions every day.
Did you actually see combat?
Yes.
How often?
Once I started to fly, we flew every day, and then like I said, initially I was a crew chief on what we called a slick, which is a troop carrying helicopter, and then after a few months I ended up going into a gun platoon, which was an unarmed helicopter, and we saw substantial action damn near every day. Yeah. We flew anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then we were always trying to help somebody else out.
And do you have any memorable experiences that stick out in your mind from your time in the war that you would like to tell me about?
It was different times. We did different things. In the village outside of our base camp was a Catholic orphanage that, for want of a better word, we'll call them the bad guys, used to raid. So we basically went down there many times from our base camp with supplies and basically rebuilt it. And we just let the bad guys know we will burn everything down if you touch this orphanage again.
Wow.
And they left it alone.
Wow. That's so interesting.
That was the best.
Yeah. And were there any parts of your job that you especially enjoyed or were particularly good at?
I enjoyed the flying every day. It was always different. Every day was different. we always knew we were helping somebody else, or the guys on the ground. We always knew we were, with when the platoon that I was in, because we were an armed helicopter, we got called out a lot of times when the infantry guys on the ground were having a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
We supported them.
Yeah.
And we would do dumb things to help them. We would do things we shouldn't have been doing, but we did them anyway. Because we weren't going to let somebody else get hurt.
Right.
If we could do anything about it. So yeah, we did a lot. We did a lot of different things. I mean, it was, a lot of different positions you get put into where you're young and dumb. So you don't think. You don't really. Fear is not an option.
No.
You don't think about things like that. You just do what you think is right, what's going to be right, and you take on a mindset of it's either at times it's either kill or be killed.
Right.
It's not. It may sound cruel, but that's exactly what it boils down to.
Yeah. Were there any times that you were particularly worried for your life that you specifically remember?
Many, many.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, like I said, like I was telling you earlier, my outfit was, we did a lot of special things with a lot of the special outfits. We were assigned with the 5th Special Forces, which was a Green Beret outfit. We worked with Chinese mercenaries. We were part of what they call a SA group, which is a special operations group. We did a lot of things and went a lot of places where there are no records of what we did to this day, because it's not something that was, in today's world, what you would call politically correct.
Right.
But it meant saving lives of the indigenous people and our own. And that's what we were very concerned with all the time.
And is that a thing that you really appreciate in terms of being in service, was the ability to save the lives of people?
Yes. We always believed, and everyone that served there believed, that we were doing the right thing for the people in that country. Mm-hmm. That they would, without us doing what we did, they were doomed to suffer. And I still believe that to this day. The oppression was horrendous. I mean, when you see people that don't, because they don't believe like you do, and they would come in the middle of the night and slaughter all the men in a village.
So.
And then you have to go in there and try to help them the next day. It's a horrendous feeling. It's something terrible to see.
Yeah. And what did a day look like for you in Vietnam? Like, I know it could vary a lot, but on any given day, is there a certain routine that you remember?
Most of the time, when we weren't working out in the field with a specific unit, we would have a mission would be scheduled. So whatever time it was scheduled for, usually first light. So we get up, and like I said, we were in a big base camp. We had a big camp, big mess hall. So you go and you get up, you eat breakfast, you go through operations, you get the coordinates and maps of where you're going to go. Our pilots would. My group, my gunner and myself, would go to a house. We're prepping our aircraft and getting it ready to go, and then we take off with a flight plan. I mean, there's two in a gun platoon. There's always 2 ships together, and we're always usually escorting what we call the slicks, which is the troop carrying ships, and there may be anywhere from 3 to 9, 12 of them.
Wow. And
we're covering them. That was our job, to cover them, because they're not armed. We are.
Is that a lot of pressure?
Yeah, we prep the LZs where they have to land, with firepower, and we change gun systems. We changed a lot of our gun systems around because of days when we came back with too many bullet holes in them. In our aircraft. We weren't happy. And they're just not happy.
No.
The one day in particular, we came back with 37 holes.
Wow. So you were constantly shut up.
Yeah,
in the sky.
it was not fun. It was not. Sometimes it looked like basketballs coming up at you.
What were the chances of the aircraft actually coming out of the sky from all of the...
I rode out 5.
Wow.
4 with bullet holes, and 1 with a mechanical failure. And lucky for me and the guys that I flew with, we walked away from all.
Yeah.
The aircraft didn't. We lost.
No.
We lost the aircraft completely, and 3 of them burned. It was cinder. Most of the Bell helicopters are made with magnesium. That's the construction of the aircraft. Once it ignites, the book used to give them 9 seconds to a pile of ashes. We used to give them 12.
Wow.
Yeah, magnesium burns very fast.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And just like basic questions about like life as a soldier. What was the food like in your camps?
We had, like I said, we lived in a big base camp. Like I said, it was 30,000 men on my
Wow.
base camp, so it was like a small city. We had a big mess hall. Food was not bad. I mean, when we lived there, when we were out in the field with the Green Berets, it was not good.
No.
That was, other than that, I mean, out there it was different. They would come in and drop dinner to us. You know, I mean, it was like, where we're at, it's unsecure. So they're coming in and they're basically what we call C-130, which is a fixed wing aircraft. He'd come in and just do, it's what they call a STOL aircraft, short landing and takeoff. Mm-hmm. So he would come in, hit the runway, do a wheel stand, drop the gate out the back, everything would slide out on pallets, drop the nose down and take off. He'd be on the ground like 15 seconds.
Wow.
And then we'd have to go out and bring it in, and you know, we're living in tents.
Yeah.
So.
And at base camp, what were your... Well, I know you said you were living in tents when you were out in the field, but what were your sleeping arrangements like when you're like in base camp?
In our base camp, we had a barracks, so basically a barracks. I had a room. I lived in a room with one other guy. 2 of us had. We had our own room. We had indigenous personnel came in and made our beds and cleaned our rooms every day.
Yeah.
Washed our clothes, ironed them and everything. You know,
Huh.
I mean, you know, they were from the village. You know, they're poor.
Right.
So they got paid.
Providing jobs.
Yeah. And so we provided a lot of jobs for them, and you know, you got to be very friendly with them.
Yeah.
And that's where the word Mama San comes from, because that's what most of them were older ladies, you know. So.
Wow. And how did you stay in touch with your family back home during your time?
My family was not real thrilled with what I was doing or where I was. So it was the communication between my family and me was very sparse. Mm-hmm. Very sparse. My father, at the time, we were estranged, I guess if you want to call it, when I went in. And he wrote a couple times. He thought I worked in a motor pool. And then we had a camera crew with us one day when we got we were on a mission, flying at what we call command and control. And it was one of them days when I got a lot of bullet holes and ended up going down in the weeds, and I ended up on the 6 o'clock news. You could see me being pulled out of the jungle, and he happened to see it. So, and that's created quite a stir with the Red Cross.
Yeah.
They were on me the next day because he thought I worked in a motor pool.
Right.
Here I am being plucked out
of the weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was being pulled out by my arms. Bad.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And how did people entertain themselves? What did you do with your free time? And how much free time did you actually have?
We didn't have a whole lot, but we had our own club. Mm-hmm. We had our own bar and club in our company area. that was well stocked. Or we had our music. Everybody had music. You know, whatever it was. We had, you listened to, like when we were flying, they had what they call AFVN, which is Armed Forces Radio. Okay, and I mean, now I'm flying, and we have 7 radios, and we could dial in the FM radio, and you know, that's, you always hear the story of Good Morning Vietnam with Adrian Cronauer, so we listened to him constantly, and there were always a lot of disc jockeys, and every night there was always a movie in our base camp.
Yeah.
You know, so when we were out in the field, with whatever unit we were assigned to, and like most of the time was with the Green Berets, we're working most of the day. We're finally getting, you know, when we land at night, and in the evening, after we get something to eat, then the maintenance on my aircraft would take me anywhere from 4 to 6 hours.
Wow.
For my daily maintenance and make sure that I was ready to fly the next day.
Yeah.
And that was every day.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. In the service, where did you travel, like, across the year?
That was pretty much it. When I came back to the States, I had a little bit of time left. I had to serve. But because I did 2 tours, I was able to pick my duty station. And the closest one to what's here, which was home, was in Harrisburg. So I ended up at New Cumberland Army Depot in Harrisburg, right outside of Harrisburg. I finished my tour in service there.
Doing what there?
Working in the hangar on the aircraft. They used to rebuild. The Chinook aircraft were manufactured at Boeing here in Essington. And in New Cumberland, the Chinooks that were shipped back from overseas were rebuilt here and then up in New Cumberland, and then sent down to Boeing to be finalized, and they were sent back. So that's what I ended up doing.
And you've mentioned Green Berets a couple times. What are the Green Berets?
They're Special Forces. They are what they are the Army's elite. Okay, I mean they would go out with 4 or 5, and that's all there was. They would a unit for them would be 4 or 5 guys, all cross-trained and everything, and they would mostly worked with the indigenous personnel. You know, in our case, we had 4 or 5 of them working with us, but we had 1,000 Chinese mercenaries working with us also. And when we were out in the field with them, that's who's pulling guard duty and running walking patrols.
Yeah. And how long total were you did you serve for?
I was in a little over 4 years, and I did just under 23 and a half months in Vietnam.
And do you recall the day that your service ended?
Oh yes, everyone remembers that day.
And where were you?
I was in Harrisburg in New Cumberland, and it was like I was out of that uniform before I cleared the gate. Once I got my my discharge papers, what they call it, separation papers from the military. It's called a DD-214. You know what that means. That dictates what you did and when you got out, when you went in, and when you were, where you were, and what you got out.
Right.
And once you got that in your hand, you're gone.
Were you excited to be?
Yes, I had enough. I had enough.
And in the days and weeks after your service ended, what did you do?
Well, my best friend, guy I grew up with, his father, his grandfather, and his uncle were all union iron workers, and while I was over there, he joined the iron workers too. And as soon as I got out, I was out 3 days, and it was a struggle. I could see I was going to have a big struggle mentally. Mm-hmm. You know, it was going to be hard. And they put me to work. I went to work immediately, and I enrolled into the apprenticeship for the Union Iron Workers in Philadelphia, and I was accepted immediately. So I started, that September I started school, apprentice school, and I was working. It allowed me to get some of my self-respect back, my self-esteem, and at the same time make a living. Be able to get started, try to start making some type of a life.
And did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
Of course. I'm a patriot, so you'll never take that out of me. That's instilled in my blood. If I needed, I would go back in a heartbeat. And most guys like me that I know of would do the same. You know, and I mean, it's when all this crap started. There were a lot of guys my age that said, "Leave them young boys home. We'll go. We have the experience.
Yeah.
We've been there, done that." So, yeah, I would, in a minute, in a heartbeat, I would go back.
Yeah. You don't regret anything that you chose to do?
No, it's just, it's something that you feel is right for this country and for the people our way of life.
Are you proud of what you did serving
Yes,
your country?
yes, I'm extremely proud.
And did you make any close friendships while in the service? And did you continue any of these relationships?
You try to, and it's very hard because things we do generate memories that may be very detrimental to the mental health of the guys you served with.
Yeah.
You know, like the best story I can tell you is, we haven't touched on the base yet, but I am part of a motorcycle club with all Vietnam vets. And a guy that I flew with almost every day, my wingman, or I was his wingman, whatever. He was a crew chief on another ship. His name was Dennis Ward. He came home just before me. He had done 2 tours. We did we chewed a lot of the same dirt together. Unbeknownst to me, he was a part of the club too, and I ran into him at a meeting we had in Delaware after I was in the club maybe 1.5 years, 2 years, and he had a beard down to here and hairs all the way down the middle of his back, and I had my unit patch on my vest, which said 128th Gunslingers. That was the outfit that I flew with. And he asked me when I flew with the Gunslingers. And I told him, and he said, "Hey, Jimmy, it's me, Dennis, you dumb." Whatever. I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
So we hadn't seen each other in 30 years.
Wow.
You know, and we were very close. We were very close. And we couldn't, we reinstituted the friendship once again, but he suffered a lot more than I did.
Yeah.
So communication between us, although it felt great to both of us, it was devastating to him.
Right.
Mentally. I mean, his wife actually told me, and she said, he loves you, but when he sees you, it takes him 2 weeks to get over it.
Mm-hmm.
She said, so space that contact out,
Yeah.
which we did. He passed away about 8 years ago now from cancer from Agent Orange.
Yeah.
So, which we were around that crap too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you join a veterans organization? And if so, what kind of work do you do there, and how has it changed your post-war experience?
Well, I've become a part of this club. It is one of the largest motorcycle clubs in the world. There was very many of them. We do. We're considered outlaws by law enforcement. You know, and we were actually listed. We were actually 5th on a list of domestic terrorists for many years.
Really?
Yes. And I have a friend who was in law enforcement. I asked him why. And he said to me, he said, well, we feel that you guys are the best trained and the most heavily armed. And I described it. I said, listen, here's what it is. We don't sell guns, dope, or people. I said, we sell hot dogs and hamburgers. We're always broke because we spend every dime that we have on some veteran's issue somewhere.
Yeah.
Wherever. I mean, Joe used to love it because we'd go, like, every year at Christmas, we go to Coachville, the VA hospital.
Yeah.
They would give us a ward, tell us how many people are in the ward. We'd go and get these big Christmas shopping bags and fill them with underwear, socks, t-shirts, candy, games, writing paper, whatever, phone cards.
Yeah.
And then we would take 20 or 30 pieces, and just before Christmas we would go up there and have a big party in that ward. We do that every year. We still do it.
Yeah.
You know, we do it every year.
That's awesome.
And I took Joe with me one year. He was like, I get it, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
You know, and that's some of the things we do. We take care of other vets, and we do. If we find one that needs something, what little bit of money we have, they're welcome to. We'll spend it. You know, we've done things like that. We've paid to have disabled vet ramps put in their house, you know, or went and did it,
Yeah.
you know, or moved them, or you know, or found them. And we have our associate club for our younger guys that Joe was in, my son, the 2nd Brigade. They do what they call a stand down once a month in Philadelphia, where they go down there and they gather vets off the street.
Yeah.
And feed them, clothe them. Some of them sometimes we'll get doctors that we know that will come in, dentists. You know, we have VA people in there to help them get their benefits and get them squared away with that, and try to help them find some place to live. You know, and let them know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
We do a lot of it.
And how does it make you feel to be able to make a difference in the lives of other veterans?
It's required. For people like me, it's required. You know, and it's hard, very hard to do. But you actually feel better for it. You know, like now the big push is 22 vets a day commit suicide. So now our big push is to try to figure out how to get that stopped.
Yeah.
You know, I have a friend that runs a big organization in New York. It's called Vet Rest. He's a lieutenant colonel. They're working on it. They're working on it. We're working on it. Everybody is. It's an important thing. 22 is too many.
Yeah.
One's too many. But 22 is that's an enormous number. And a lot of these young guys coming back because they don't know. They don't know that there's people like us. And they don't know who to talk to. They don't know how to do it. You know, I have some of these young people who know me will come and talk to me simply because they can relate. Because I understand, you know, because I am a combat vet. You know, and you can't. It's not a welcome brotherhood, but it's a brotherhood that I am a part of, that I have no choice in the matter. So there are people that can't talk to you, can't talk to a doctor, can't talk to somebody that hasn't been there and done that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a few that I have that can come and seek me out because they know they can talk. And I'll work with them and do whatever I got, do whatever I can. If I got $2 in my pocket and they're broke, they're getting half, for sure.
That's awesome.
You know.
And looking back at your military work, what key knowledge, skills, abilities, experiences that you gained would you say are most valuable to you today?
The biggest thing you gain is you grow up very quickly. You go from a boy to a man almost overnight, and your self-confidence in yourself goes from 10% to 1,000 quickly. And if you have the mindset to understand where you've been and what you're up to, then you can channel that and make it work. I am one of the lucky ones, and I'm actually, it actually creates a guilt feeling that why did I come back? You know, what am I why am I doing this? I shouldn't be here. I cheated death many times. My gunner who flew with me for damn near 18 months did not make it. So I have to live with that. You know, I don't know what to say. It just changes your perspective on life.
For sure.
For sure.
And adding to that, what challenges have you faced since your service ended in transitioning back to civilian life?
There's once I began to work and be able to make a life, that was only a small part. I don't sleep. I maybe 2 hours at a time. You know, I see a doctor constantly for it. I won't take medication because that was always the VA's answer. The VA's answer was to medicate him and throw him out the door.
Yeah.
And I refused. So, through vocal therapy, my doctor has walked me through it for the last 15 years. Yeah. It's a woman, and she's very good with it. She used to work for the VA, so she understood. The nightmares are ongoing. The night sweats.
Yeah.
It took my doctor probably 5 years to figure it out, and she said, I'm still on patrol. I get up in the middle of the night, I patrol my house.
Yeah.
I still do. It's very. I didn't actually realize that what I was doing until she said it.
Right. And
then I finally figured out. And my wife, Linda, used to say that to me. What are you doing? And I would be, the slightest noise, I'm out in the house.
Yeah. You're like sleepwalking, but on patrol.
Well, I'm looking.
Yeah.
It's very vigilant. I mean, it changes the perspective when I'm in a room. I survey the room as soon as I walk in the room, completely.
Yeah.
I know all the exits and how to get out. I usually have to sit with my back to the wall, and I usually need to be where I can get to the door quickly. Yeah. And there are some times when it becomes just overwhelming and I just have to leave.
Yeah.
I get up and leave.
Yeah.
If you notice in our family, I have done that. You've seen me just say that, and I just leave.
Do what you gotta do.
And it's just that's the price I pay.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think the United States made the right decision in joining the Vietnam War?
Yes. I believe we did, but I don't believe we were allowed to finish what they started because of it was very unpopular.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
The politicals within the country were, You know, if Kennedy would have survived, would have lived, I believe it would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
A lot different. But yeah, we weren't. You know, there's people who were being slaughtered
Yeah.
for no reason. You know.
Mm-hmm. And have you faced challenges in the fact that this was such a controversial war in terms of your status as a veteran and the pride that people have and the fact that you were, you know, such an important part?
Like we were saying earlier, we were very ostracized when we came home. For years, like I said, I never told anyone that I even served, you know, let alone tell them I had spent, you know, did 2 tours in Vietnam. Coming home, I was ostracized in San Francisco in the airport, to the point that 2 MPs, military police, came and got me.
Wow.
And took me back to, they had was a USO club in the airport, put me in the USO,
Yeah.
and said, you stay here. When your plane is ready to leave, we will come and get you and take you to your plane, because there were a lot of hippies or whatever you want to, that were being very degrading to military guys coming back, because we were all in full uniform.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very hard, but I mean, it was. We didn't tell anybody for a lot of years, and for a lot of years we were very looked down upon for what we did. Mm-hmm. And my own personal belief is we still are.
Yeah.
We still are treated like second-class citizens.
And did you sustain any long-term injuries or physical disabilities from your time in the service?
I have a bad back from crashing too many times. I have a scar on my leg where a bullet run up it. I have a scar on my back where I took shrapnel in my back. I have shrapnel in both legs. You know, I mean, it's I can't have an MRI because it's magnetic.
Yeah.
Because it'll draw because I have a shrapnel in my legs, and I pull it right out. And occasionally it works its way out, and I'll be able to pick it out. And they're just minute little pieces, but they come out to your butt cheeks.
And is there anything else that you would like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
I don't know what else to say. I mean, I've covered everything. You know, I'm very proud of what I've done. You know, I'm very proud to be a veteran for this country and have served. And like I said, at times I have survivor's guilt. You know, at times. So I try to overcome that by serving and doing what I can for other veterans in this country somewhere, somehow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's it. And helping them somewhere. And I will continue until I die. You know. I mean, you saw the kind of guys that I run with at my son's funeral. You know. I mean, we're a different breed. We bury our own. And that upsets people. Believe it or not, it upsets people.
It's...
You know, but that's how we are. If somebody finally die, my guys will be the last ones to throw dirt on me. And that'll be fine.
Yeah. And my last question for you, given that it is the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, what do you want people to remember this Memorial Day weekend, aside from the barbecues and the parties and the beaches?
The way we put it is, you must honor. All gave some gave all. You have to honor them.
Thank you so much for doing this interview for me. I so appreciate it.
I hope it helps.
Thank you.
Stop.